is hard, right? It's hard on most people. The fact is, we're creatures of habit. We like doing things a certain way once we know we like doing them, and we just keep doing it. And when it comes to lifestyle, we often find ourselves in a pattern where we can often just ignore how we're feeling. We just think, well, we do this at a certain time and that's what's going to happen. However, when you suddenly are faced with getting maybe sick all the time, like I used to get constant colds, and then I would have seasonal allergies really brutally, and then every fall winter I'd get taken out by illness, and like it was literally in my face saying, Samantha, wake up. That's when I knew I had to make a change. And what's amazing about that, it is amazing that it took that much for me to finally tune in, right? Being a type 1 diabetic, being somebody who's super healthy, I thought I was always really healthy, but yet there were certain habits that really weren't helping me with my diabetes management, that weren't helping me balance and manage my weight. Many things, that I didn't realize that I could be embracing and feel that much stronger, and going into every fall winter feeling like I have an invisible cape where I can handle what's going to be thrown at me. And it is amazing to me. But the key is to not get fixated on the change, right? I think so often when we know we've got to make changes, we sort of freak out, right? We make it into a bigger thing in our minds, and so often that's why we just kind of ignore the symptoms, because sometimes it's easier to do so. But the thing is we can't underestimate ourselves. We cannot underestimate our willpower, right? Because so often we let the gut take over, and the gut takes over our mind, and we tell ourselves, nope, that's too hard, I can't do that. Or when I was first diabetic, first diagnosed rather, people would say, oh, you can't have waffles, you can't have sugar, you can't have this. Oh, I couldn't do that. Well, of course you would do that if it's life and death, right? We can do hard things. All of us on this earth were created so that we can do hard things. As type 1 diabetic warriors, we are warriors, we're champions. Every day we are at battle with our own bodies, but we have a choice to let it win or to let ourselves win, and to really build ourselves up for success. And really, we have that choice every day, and it's a matter of, are you going to take it upon yourselves to make those changes? And I'm really glad that I did, because once I realized it was all coming down to my daily habits, once I realized that, and my mindset, and how my mindset was key, it was the crucial component that had to change in order to see effective change. And now I make so many things a non-negotiable. Having a healthy smoothie every day, non-negotiable. Working movement into my daily practice, non-negotiable. Starting my morning off with gratitude, non-negotiable. So all these things that I've gradually added on are all amounting to something. They're just like this. The more things you add into your day-to-day and you start embracing a healthier mindset and a healthier way of life, that's when the world opens up. That's what I'm starting to realize. And it is amazing what the universe will give you. And when I look back to knowing it took so much for me to go through to now get to today. However, where there's the challenge, where there's the struggle, there's the other end of it, right? And now I can look back and say, okay, this path that I'm on was meant to happen. So why am I sharing all this? Not just, yay, look at me. But the fact is because I have gone through what I've gone through, and I'm living proof that you can be the healthiest diabetic, the healthiest type 1 diabetic, if you choose to be, by making choices to be so, right? And I've been able to inspire and help so many fellow type 1 diabetics to get to the healthier version of themselves every single day. And I get the messages, and I get the text messages, and oh my gosh, Sam, I love this new smoothie you posted, or I'm now making energy bites part of my routine, and I'm no longer snacking in the evenings like I used to and think that was just the way. And I can't imagine, I can't imagine that I used to do that all the time. Or I'm drinking more water. All these things, I'm like, oh, it's so exciting to me. So imagine this. Imagine this. You have 2 little kids, one of whom is 8. Okay? Very headstrong. And she suddenly starts to go down a path that you think is very similar to what you've gone through, where you have gotten sick all the time. And maybe you've been like me and you've got pneumonia or bronchitis or whatever. We have that choice just to just, go take her to the doctor and just do regular medicine and, treat the symptom, treat whatever it is, or look greater, look to the bigger root. And in saying all that, so there's a lot of things happening. If you followed my recent video, I guess it was maybe not so recent, it's COVID, 2 months ago, when I talked about finally listening to all these symptoms that we were seeing our eldest go through, that's been really painful to watch. The connection between certain foods and her behavior, and it's showing itself, it's rearing its ugly head on her face. All these things that we were witnessing, that would have been just easy just to say, oh, that's just eczema, or oh, that's that, get the lotion, get the cream, whatever. But no. From what I've learned and from what I continue to learn, and all the amazing knowledge at my fingertips with so many healthcare practitioners at my fingertips, and learning that those symptoms are there to tell us a story, to tell us more of what the body is doing inside. And the body is telling us these foods she does not like. And so as a result, they were making her feel sick. They were making her feel ill. They were making her behave poorly. It's not her fault. It's her body and her mind and her gut. Like, all of that is so connected for all of us. And for an 8-year-old, she cannot communicate or even be old enough, or she doesn't have the years of experience on her like I do to know those connections and how they all correlate. To her, they're all isolated experiences. But to me, I could connect all the dots and say, there's a greater story happening here, and this is what's going on. And so we hired a naturopath. We've gone through a month-long journey. It's actually longer than a month. I think we're on about 5.5 weeks of doing something as a family to help her heal her gut, to take out the foods that we've learned that her body is extremely sensitive to. Unfortunately, some of these foods are her favorite foods. So to be the parent and have to say to my child, I'm sorry, you can't have that. I feel mean, and many parents would feel mean. But I think, no, what's mean is giving her foods that I know her body doesn't like, and we've already got proof because we've had the blood work, we've done the sensitivities. We know, we have the sheet of paper telling us of knowing what the antibodies are at and what's going on inside our body of what it's trying to defend itself against. So that is numbers. That doesn't lie. So now we're taking it that next step, right? So we've taken this past 5 or whatever weeks we're on, and we've taken out all these foods, and it's called a special food elimination diet. And we're doing it as a family. And many times we're all following the exact same rules. Sometimes certain foods that she's not allowed creep into our diets. Maybe she's already eaten, she doesn't care, she's moved on. She's playing with friends, whatever, and then we'll ask her, are you okay if we have an egg or whatever it is? And she'll say, it's okay, Mom, you can eat it, which is awesome. Not awesome that she can't have it, but it is nice of her to say, at least, you can have it. But where I'm going with this, so it's been bumpy, as you can imagine. It is bumpy. You don't expect perfection, but you just expect that there's going to be change that's happening along the way. And it's easy to, beat up on yourself if something goes wrong. And in our case, we still had certain things in our freezer in the downstairs that we didn't realize was still there, and she got into it. It's easy to get mad, but at the same time, should she have eaten it? No, she shouldn't have. But it actually was a blessing. And it was a blessing for a couple of reasons, because it was a teachable moment. We could talk about it. Why, we're saying you can't have certain things, and what you're doing to yourself by having them, right? But the greater learning process in all of this is that she's now able to see certain connections between certain foods and how she feels after. That is a huge gift, right? Because information is power. And yes, she's only 8. But the fact is, by us showing her, look, you remember that? You had that? And look at how you're reacting. Look at how you're acting. You're acting angry. And she automatically says, no, why are you trying to make me angry? It's not the food, Mom. Why are you doing something that's going to just make me upset with you? And it keeps happening, and that's what she says. And that just is, right? That's the age group. And not just the age group, it's just her specifically on this path of life. She hasn't learned yet. It's not people trying to make her angry. It's the fact that her reaction, she has the choice to react a certain way, and she's giving in and allowing anger to take over, or fear to take over, or whatever it is, the emotion to take over, before making the connection that the food is giving her body something that it hates, and so as a result it's making her angry, and that's her reaction. So that is quite amazing, because now she's starting to see and connect those dots, and that is a gift at age 8 to now know that. And we're trying to brace her, because on Friday we meet with a naturopath to review it all and to have more testing done to see how things are at, now that she hasn't had exposure to certain really highly sensitive foods. And then there'll be a next stage. But then at that point, as life goes on, she'll learn which ones she's willing to have, which one's really going to allow her to have more, maybe more regularly or less regularly. But when she can say, people like to say cheat in a diabetic term, people often say, oh, don't cheat, or I cheated on this. It's not cheating. It's just having something that you shouldn't have, or you ideally wouldn't have. But we're going to at least prep her with that information, so that she goes on in life, she can learn to make those decisions for herself and be braced for what the outcome is going to be. So in all of this, I just say, know that change can be hard, but don't underestimate your own willpower, because quite honestly, if we had just gone the way we were going, we would have just continued on and dealt with the horrible tantrums that we were dealing with, and the eczema that she was dealing with, and so many things were happening. She was getting blisters on her toes after having dairy. Meanwhile, her doctors, we've had foods tested, blood work done, and they said she's okay. Okay wasn't okay for me. That's not okay. She needs to be great. She needs to feel well and look well. And she had a lot of dark circling happening under her eyes, and as I say, eczema. There was bouts of psoriasis popping up, like, hello, autoimmune, and of course having an autoimmune, I know she's predisposed to that. But those are autoimmunes, and now that's going to make her more predisposed to developing other things. And knowing that if she continued on the path of having foods that her body doesn't like, that ultimately leads to leaky gut, that can then trigger an autoimmune reaction, or any number of things. So that's what scared me. But again, I'm passionate about it, and this is why I'm sharing, because information is power. And when we make that decision, that is when the world opens up, and that's when we look for solutions, and then we can share with other people. And because of so many of my friends in my health and wellness community sharing their stories of their kids going through similar stories to what my eldest is going through, I learned so much. And from their moments of pain and their moments of just being really raw and honest about what their journey was going to look, or what was looking like, and where it was going and where it is now, that gave me hope. And I'm so grateful for them being brave, because some of the stories they shared, they were less than ideal, right? And I could share my own, but I'm not about to right now. But the fact is, it's a cry for help, right? And there's a lot of foods that we have as adults that we know after we eat them we feel really anxious, right? Sugar and high carbs and all this sort of stuff. But it's even more potent when it comes to to a younger child, and making that connection, right? So I just encourage you, listen to the messages. If you have any questions, you want to know more about what we've gone on, and so that you can share notes or tips or tricks or whatever, we're all in this together. And I'm just a DM away if you want to reach out on Instagram at One Vibrant Diabetic. You can follow me and join my group, my private Facebook group, Live Vibrantly with Diabetes. I'd love to welcome you into that group. If you want to start to do maybe this monthly program that I do every month to keep me on track and help me be the healthiest diabetic out there, I'd love to share more about that. Just send me a message. Let's get the conversation going. Have a wonderful day. We'll talk soon.